protecting your brain and keeping it sharp throughout your entire life. Like one of the most popular studies on Alzheimer's showed that just integrating a 12-hour fast between dinner and your first meal the next day was instrumental and produced a dramatic improvement in Alzheimer's patients, along with some strategic supplements and clean nutrition, right? And we can extrapolate that because many disease states and imbalances in the body, not just neurodegenerative disease, but cancer, when you start fasting longer, your body goes from digestion to detoxification, and that autophagy process of like eating cells and cancerous growths upregulates, increases.
Yeah! What's up, everybody? Your life alchemist, your dragon. Welcome to Alchemize Life. I'm your host, Justin David Carl. This is a show where I seek out and share expertise, wisdom, and thought leadership in all domains with the mission of empowering and inspiring you to proactively design and truly live a life worth living. We're all in this together, and when we do the work together, we go so much farther, so much faster, and have so much more fun. Without further ado, let's dig into this episode and alchemize life. Anthony DiClementi, welcome to the show, brother. It's so good to have you here. Incredibly excited to start, but before we get into all about you, let's talk about that fire, or that almost fire that happened.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Justin. Pleasure to be here and excited to chat with you and your audience. So we are in the process of building a family homestead in Western North Carolina, bought 65 acres. I've been really passionate for the past few years about living closer to nature, having a closer relationship with my food, the water that I drink, the community, and the people that surround me, and of course, my own family. And my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's almost a decade ago. And we realized that probably one of the best ways to accomplish this was to get some land, build a home for my parents, a home for my brother and his wife, a home for myself. And we've been in the process of like taking 65 acres of raw land and starting to develop it and getting it ready for this family homestead. So I was down there last week and we were clearing some brush and we started like a huge burn pile. I went to the local bait and tackle shop and got myself a burn permit. Didn't even know you needed to get a permit to like light a fire these days, but apparently you do. And so we started burning all this brush a little bit off the road that we put in on our property. And once it stabilized, we went back, because there was only 3 of us doing work. We went back to start loading up some logs on a trailer, to haul to the next burn pile and so on and so forth. Well, we left for about 15 minutes. I'm tying chains to logs and we're pulling them out with a bobcat and getting them loaded up on this truck. After we've got a full load, we're driving back to where the burn pile is to dump the logs. And I look up and the fire had jumped from the burn pile onto a valley of like a crevasse in our mountain, caught a whole bunch of leaves on fire, and now was spreading uphill quickly in every direction. And I'm like, I come around the corner and I see this and I hit this like 60-year-old dude, Ben, that's been helping me with a bunch of the work. He's like a local mountain man. I'm like, Ben! I'm like, look, I'm burning down the forest. And I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, you better go stomp it out. So I go jumping out of the truck. It's a Jeep, actually. I go jumping out of his Jeep. I'm running up the hill and I'm just river dancing all over these leaves. Like almost like, you remember the shuttle run in gym class where you just like run back and forth? I'm doing that. Like I'd run to one side, river dance, stomp out a whole bunch of leaves, and then like run over to the other side, stomp that out. In the meantime, the stuff I just stomped out had like ignited again in flames. Ben's running up there with a big stick, trying to create a firewall and basically like create a wall of no leaves and just dead stuff so that the fire won't keep climbing upwards. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to burn down our entire 65 acres. And the smoke's like billowing into my eyes and my mouth. I'm trying to pull my shirt up over my face while I'm stomping all this stuff out. Long story short, after about 15 minutes, we got it all put out. And the bottom treads on both of my work boots fell off. Like literally fell off because they had melted from the heat of the fire that I was stomping out. But no one was hurt. Damage was minimal. and we live to fight another day. So that was probably like the scariest, most exciting thing that's happened in the past week. Yeah. So just a word of caution to anyone who's building their nature retreat and making a transition to, a closer relationship with their food and their community. Be careful, start and burn piles, and make sure that you've got plenty of measures in place for them not to spread.
Yeah, that must have been scary as fuck. Like, especially as this is your baby. This is your new, home, and to almost destroy it before you even get it completed would be terrible. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing the excitement of your past week with me. To introduce you to the audience, you are the founder of Biohacking Secrets and host of the Biohacking Secrets podcast. You're also an elite coach that works with Olympic gold medalists, top business professionals, and, a whole gamut of just, top performers across all domains that are just looking to take their life to the next level. You've even created a course with Andrew Huberman back a few years ago, and you're just up to a whole lot of incredible things. And, recently I introduced biohacking on my podcast with another guest, and I came upon your work and I was like, okay, this guy knows his shit when it comes to biohacking, and I'd love to dive deeper into that world because I'm kind of a newbie there in terms of biohacking. I do some of the basics, but I'm not super advanced, and I just wanted to connect with somebody who knew a whole lot more than me, and in the process of my own learning, share it with the audience, in addition to just hear your entrepreneurial journey, because you've built a really incredible company and you do several different things. And I think it's really inspirational for people to understand that entrepreneurial journey. So I'd love to start there. How did you become the founder of Biohacking Secrets and the host of the podcast?
Yeah. Well, thank you for all the kind words. I appreciate it. Most of them are true. And I guess like a lot of people, I went to college and picked my major just based on I was oh, business, economics. I want to learn how to make money. It was very, very simple and almost embarrassing in hindsight, but it wasn't a passion-based decision, and it wasn't something that I even spent as much time on it as I probably should have, seeing how much unfolds from those choices. Yeah. And I ended up getting a great job downtown in banking, commercial mortgage-backed securities. So a lot of your listeners have probably seen the Steve Carell movie, The Big Short, about what happened in 2008. I was a part of a company that was partly responsible for that. We were we were financing these $100 million office buildings in downtown Chicago, and doing cash flow projections based on shit that wasn't in the building and tenants that weren't yet there. You know what I mean? It was but that was how we were told to do it. You know what I mean? And so, but I also felt every Sunday night, I was dreading going to bed because I knew on Monday morning I had to wake up and go to this job that I wasn't really passionate about. And I felt like I was losing a little bit of my soul. I'd always been really into health and wellness. I was a certified personal trainer, NCSF nutrition specialist, taught yoga for years, worked at one of the best personal training gyms, David Barton Gym, before they closed. But I just didn't think that I could make a living doing that. Yeah. And when all of that went down in 2008 and they shut our office down and that whole industry collapsed, I was now's my chance, to really go for what I love and what I'm passionate about and see if I could figure out the money side of things. I came across...
What year was that?
So that was 2008 when I started my entrepreneurial journey. And a lot of that work initially was in person. It wasn't really until 2010 that I read an article that Tim Ferriss had posted on his blog called How to Make $1 Million a Month Selling eBooks. And it was about this guy, Mike Geary, who had created a course, The Truth About Abs. And it was an ebook.
Oh, I remember this story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell it. Sure.
Well, basically, so Mike Geary had found a way. He wrote this book called The Truth About Abs. And he had found, first when he launched it, it was crickets. Like many of us, you think you create a website and like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And then like no one comes and no one buys your shit, you know? So it was like that for Mike too. He finally got his first sale and he looked at like the purchase receipt and realized it was one of his mom's friends from work who his mom had like told her friend about it. And her friend went funny. He's like, so he had to figure out how to market and sell and generate traffic and all that stuff. And he did. So mostly through a lot of affiliate work and media buys and that sort of thing, he started doing $1 million a month selling this ebook, The Truth About Apps. And that really blew my mind wide open. Wow, I could take the stuff that I'm doing one-on-one or in person with clients. I could share it and it's not limited by geography. I can reach people all over the world. You know what I mean? And if you have an ebook, it's you're not encumbered by printing costs and all that sort of thing. So I started working on my first program. Went through a similar process with that Mike Geary experienced, no crickets, it was called the Health Blueprint. And then I hired Russell Brunson, who is the founder of ClickFunnels, amazing marketer. He's written 3 books, .com Secrets, Expert Secrets, and Traffic Secrets. Some of your listeners may be familiar with him. I hired him as a coach to teach me how to do this stuff. I was one of the first people in his coaching program. Him and I became good friends. I would go to Boise like every single time he had an event and soak up as much as I could. And one day he was on stage talking about how he was tired. He'd get home from work and, he had 5 kids. They'd all want to play with him. He had no energy. And I went up to him after the event and I said, hey, if you want help with this stuff, I'll help you. I'm like, we can go grocery shopping. We'll do some training. You know what I mean? I'll help you with your supplements and different biohacks to increase energy. He's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it today. Let's go. So I went to Trader Joe's with him. We started working together and he was like, blown away at how much more energy he had and like how much of a difference it made in his life. So we ended up partnering on this company called Biohacking Secrets. I wrote a book. We launched a podcast, created courses with people like the Stanford professor of neurobiology, Dr. Andrew Huberman, started working with people like Duncan Keith and Jonathan Tays from the Blackhawks, Olympic gold medalists, that sort of thing. And just a lot of entrepreneurs who want to expand time, right?
Yeah.
Where like they realize that their most precious commodity is their time and there never seems to be enough time in the day. Well, how do we get, better sleep, deeper, more restful, regenerative sleep in the same or less time? How do you condense your, daily routine to things that truly give you a return on your energy, increase mental clarity, feeling more connected to God, your creator? You know what I mean? That sort of thing. And we build programs to help people get ripped, build muscle and dial in themselves cognitively, spiritually, and truly live, protect themselves from the things that kill most people, which is cancer, heart disease, and neurodegenerative disease, because that's really where longevity starts. And that's what we do.
That's awesome. Okay. So I want to slow it down and expand time just a little bit because it sounds like you're like an overnight success, like in how fast all that happened. So 2008, you kind of like started to do some one-on-one coaching. 2010, you meet Russell Brunson. And then like how much like you took his coaching program, which I absolutely love that like you did your own work, your own personal development, your own coaching, like you were like a student of the game before you kind of like launched your own thing. How long were you kind of like in development with Russell before you kind of ultimately became his like, health and fitness coach and then ended up partnering with him?
Yeah. So I'll sprinkle in some timestamps for it to make sense. That was like the super Cliff Notes version, but basically I had bought a course early in this journey when I knew I wanted to take my health and biohacking business online. And it was Tony Robbins' course called The New Money Masters. So this was during a period when Tony Robbins was realizing that a lot of his business model was becoming outdated and just selling courses at events was no longer going to be reflective of the marketing and new economy that was moving primarily online. So he got a lot of the best online internet marketers and created this course, this interview course, where each DVD was him interviewing these online marketers and asking them what they did and how to market online and how to reach an audience that way. And one of those interviews was with Russell Brunson. So that was where I first got exposed to him. Russell and his family were at Fiji doing this interview with Tony. And I was like, I like this guy. He's like about my age. He seems sharp, paid his dues in the online world. And so that was my first exposure to Russell. I was then on his email list. And then in I created and launched my online course in 2012. In 2014, I got an email from Russell saying, hey, I'm going to be coaching some people. That was when I maxed out my credit card to work with Russell, join his coaching program, and start actually learning how to generate traffic and conversions and sales and all that sort of thing and market online. So I started going to every event in Boise during that period. And then we became good friends. The next year, he didn't charge me for the mastermind. He just had me in it. He was like, yeah, just keep coming. You know what I mean? And I was like, nice. That's, good chunk of change. And as I was helping him with this stuff, I was like, dude, we should partner. He's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, all right, what do I do? Where do we start? And he's like, write a book. Like, that was it. He's just like, write a book. And I was like, okay. So then I'm like, well, what do I write a book about? So I thought about the work that I was doing with clients, which was largely focused on helping people to upgrade their energy and focus. Mm-hmm. And I kind of broke that down into a system that would be like the foundational components of health that impact all of us, which is like your environment, nutrition, movement, stress management, sleep, supplements, hydration, oxygenation, light, and then of course your mindset and your habits, right? That's like the foundational. That was the first part of the book. And each chapter was dedicated to one of those components. And I don't know if we're still selling the physical copy of the book, but if we are, it's at biohackersguide.com for anyone that's like, oh, that's interesting. I want to check that out. And then the second part of the book was troubleshooting. Okay, so what if you have gut dysfunction, dysbiosis, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, candida, parasites, that sort of thing? What do you do about it? What if you've got mitochondrial dysfunction, chronic fatigue, certain low-level stealth infections like Lyme disease, which I've had twice, that could be running your body down? You know what I mean? What do you do if you have hormonal imbalances, low testosterone, high estrogen, so on and so forth, and taking people through that, which is really just like the overarching thing that I've always been passionate about is health freedom. How do we give people the skills and protocols and mindset to take control of their health in body, mind, and spirit, know which buttons to push, which levers to switch in order to create tangible, specific results in their body. And so that they feel just more alive in body, mind, and of course, spirit.
Love that. Okay, so basically, you invested at least, a ton of money, but in terms of, and I love, it's so fascinating when you look at super successful people. There's so many of them that when they had like almost no money, or they had to go into debt to get the coach that would take them to, like, literally my business partner did the exact same thing. Like, and then like, there's so many super successful people. They're like, well, I guess I'm going to like borrow money to get that coaching to like finally get to the level that they've been seeking. And I want to call that out because it's like this theme that I see among so many super successful people. So you partnered with Russell in what, 2015 or 2016?
2015, we partnered. I started working on the book in October.
How long did it take you to write the book?
So I didn't even write it. I just basically wrote an outline of like the process that I would take clients through. I took a whole bunch of cool client stories and like sprinkled those into the relevant chapters. And then when I had it all kind of mapped out as an outline, I just verbally dictated it. So I just walked around my place in Chicago and talked it out because I wanted it to be kind of conversational, and the way that I would speak, like I'm speaking to you right now. And because sometimes when I write, I go into like school mode, and it sounds terrible and like pretentious, and it's not even enjoyable to read. You know what I mean? So that was big. I was trying to protect the reader as well and make it fun for them. And just walked around dictating it, and then I would send it to a woman that would transcribe it, and then we'd clean it all up. So the book was done and like ready in March of 2016.
Okay.
So it was probably 3 to 4 months of like writing and cleaning it up. And, I put writing in quotes, and then we launched it and, built the website and everything. And people were buying it in around June of 2016.
That's awesome.
And then it was 500 plus pages too. So it wasn't like a small book.
Yeah. And then how much longer did you launch a podcast before or after the book, or right around the same time?
So we were actually we were going to do like a live, not like a live online event, like a telesummit event. And so I started recording these interviews that were going to be for that. And, we'd have, let's say 20 of the world's top experts in biohacking and longevity and human performance. And then people would buy tickets to this event. And I started having so much fun with the interviews that I was like, I want to keep doing this. I don't want this to stop after this event. So I said to Russell, and I was like, I just want to launch a podcast. And he's like, that's going to kill the monetization of this. You know what I mean? He's like, the whole telesummit was to like sell tickets, and you know what I mean? And I was like, I know, but I feel like this is the long play, and it's like at a soul level, it feels like the move. So that was what we did. And Russell was like, not thrilled about it. You know what I mean? But I think he understood. And so that was kind of how it became a podcast. I had this backlog of like a dozen or 24 interviews. And then I was like, well, let's just launch these as podcasts and I'll just keep going and we'll figure out the rest. And that's a big part of our business is there's a lot of things that we do to add value to people's lives. Yeah. And so that they could experience some of these changes for low or no cost. Because then when you deliver a result to someone and truly like make their life better, then they're like, take all my money. I want to do more with you. Like, what else can you share that I don't know that could make me feel better? So that's a big part of our business is just doing things that feel right, that add value to people. And then there's always going to be a percentage that want to work with you one-on-one and go deeper. Yeah. And the majority realistically aren't in a position to do that. There's not a lot of us that could just like invest 10, 25 G's here or there, multiple times, but you want to help people just because we're a part of the same ecosystem. And I look at men and women as my fellow brothers and sisters in this human journey.
Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. Today's show is brought to you by Veg Nutrition, Live Better. So I'm actually a Veg elite athlete, and before I joined the team, I spent months doing my due diligence to make sure that the company was vision, mission, and value aligned with me, my values, my mission, my vision, and my lifestyle. I got to know the owners super well. I even got to know the person who formulates all the products, and they passed with flying colors. So I couldn't be more excited to represent a company that I feel so aligned with. And I want to tell you about two of my favorite products. The first is the Veg Pre-Workout. So when I first went vegan, or mostly vegan, the last thing for me to go fully vegan was finding a vegan pre-workout that gave me the focus, the energy, and the power that I was looking for. And I can tell you, this is the best pre-workout that I've ever had. It gives me incredible focus and energy. And what's probably the best is it leaves me with no crash after I take it, which is great. And the flavors are so freaking good. There's literally peach mango and a Patriot Pop that tastes like, the firecracker popsicles, cherry lemon lime flavor. They're literally so good that I can dry scoop them. And they just released a watermelon flavor for just in time for summer, and it's incredible. So that's the first product. The second product is arguably also my favorite, and that's the plant protein. Comes in 3 incredible flavors: chocolate peanut butter, vanilla ice cream, and cold brew coffee. Yep, you heard me. Cold brew coffee flavor. It tastes incredible, all 3 flavors. 25 grams of protein, fully organic, incredible ingredients, heavy metal tested, and it is my go-to post-workout. Make sure that I'm recovering and refueling and giving my muscles the protein that they need to rebuild for that next workout. So go to vegnutrition.com/dragon and try their full line of supplements, and you'll get 15% off. Or you can just use Dragon at checkout and you'll get 15% off. So that's vegnutrition.com/dragon to get 15% off. Veg Nutrition, live better. Yeah, absolutely love that. So when did you start to then like scale, or even like, I don't completely understand how your coaching program works, but like, is it, are you able to take on multiple clients, or you only work with like 5 people at a time? Or like, how does help me and the audience understand kind of like, if they are interested in working with you, like how does that actually happen?
Yeah. So from the business side, and what we did early on was when we launched the book, we built a book funnel, right? So people would land on the page where they'd see like a trailer for our book and talking about, kind of what I described earlier. And then they would, after they purchased the book, we'd send them a physical copy of the book. They'd get offered other things like how to biohack your water. What are the top supplements for energy and focus? They could get that course on biohacking your brain that I did with the Stanford professor of neurobiology, Dr. Andrew Huberman. They could get a course on biohacking rapid and sustainable fat loss. And then when they went through that funnel that we built in Russell's software, ClickFunnels, then the thank you page was like, thank you for your order. If you're interested in working more closely with Anthony, here's a little video about, what the coaching program's like, and here's how you can apply. So there would always be a percentage of people who got the book that would then want to take the next step. They'd apply for our coaching program. They'd get on the phone with myself or someone from our team. I'd learn what their goals are. Did they want to get ripped? Did they want to build muscle? Did they want to improve their cognitive performance and energy? Were they looking to focus on longevity and protecting themselves from cancer, heart disease, neurodegenerative disease, and then lowering their biological age, that sort of thing? And when we'd kind of find the right fit, which is usually in those categories, I'd work with them one-on-one. And our coaching program now is almost always pretty close to full. But when people come in and they're interested in these sorts of things and they want help, they can just go to biohackercoaching.com and grab a time to talk with myself or someone from our team. I'll learn about their goals. I'll let them know, hey, is that's something I could help you with, or that's not, but I'll point you in the right direction if it's not. And that's a lot of what we do. It's really just helping people, at the expense of sounding cliche, unlock their full potential and realize what are the bottlenecks in their energy production, physical health, hormonal health, that we can tighten up and just make the whole process easier and more efficient for them so that everything is working the way that it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Awesome. I absolutely love that. All right, let's talk a little bit deeper about biohacking. So to kind of like start that topic, how do you personally define biohacking?
Yeah, it's essentially health freedom, meaning you know what changes to make to your environment and your body in order to produce a specific result, to keep yourself fit physically, not just in how you look, but in how your body feels, energized, mentally sharp, and really to make sure that you're going to live not only a long lifespan, but also have vibrant health and overflowing life force during your time here on this planet. So it's health freedom, and recognizing that we've got a medical system that is great. If you break your arm, I axed my hand last year in North Carolina while chopping kindling, and I went right to the hospital to get my finger reattached. So the medical system is fantastic for that stuff. Where they're not as good is disease prevention and bringing the body back into balance. And that is why biohacking and the methods and protocols that we teach have gained such popularity, because we help people to truly diagnose what is going on and what may be interfering with their optimal performance in body, mind, and spirit, and then apply proven protocols to bring the body back into balance and maximize their energy production, cognitive function, and how they look, fat loss, lean muscle mass, etc.
So can I use myself as like an example client who has like some questions and stuff for you?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, awesome. So some things that are kind of always important to me is, I love to be like sub 10% of body fat year round. And I pretty much have for the last 8 years or so. So kind of like maintain lean muscular body, but also like building muscle. And then something I'm really thinking about a lot now that I'm like 40 is like, how do I naturally keep my testosterone levels like at great levels without having to do things like TRT or testosterone replacement therapy. And like, because from my understanding, like once you go down that rabbit hole, like, or once you go down that path, it's like, then you shut down your own system. And I don't know enough about it to make that comment. That's just what I currently think. So I would prefer to, kind of like, what are the supplements and lifestyle, habits and changes I can either implement or make in my life. And then the other thing that's super important to me is mental clarity and creativity. So, now that I have a podcast and, I'm pretty active on Instagram and, I'm also, I have my own coaching program. Like I would kind of always want to be like on the cutting edge of, creativity and kind of like, personal development.
Sure.
So like, what are some of the things like, I guess let's start with like fat loss and muscle building. Like what are some like, either basic or even more advanced kind of like biohacking things I should personally be looking at?
Taking a step back and looking at this from like a 30,000 foot view. Let's say that you and I, to simplify things, let's say that you and I were just focused on leaning out. Like you wanted to get down to between 5 and 10% body fat. We're just imagining you're not there.
Yeah.
But I think you are. And in order to do that, like based on what you know, is that more of an anabolic or more of a catabolic process? Meaning more of a muscle building, growth related process or more of a process of breaking down? And where would you categorize that?
I don't even know how to answer that. Like for me, like from what I understand, it would be like, how do I, use mostly my diet in order to get down to those levels? Because I could be working out, for 3 hours a day, 7 days a week. But if I don't have my eating in order, there's no way I'm going to be under 10% body fat. So that's how I would answer the question that I'm not deep enough in the science to even like answer your question appropriately.
Totally. I hear you. And I mean, you're right. To simplify things, when we're leaning out, when we want to burn fat, it almost always requires an energy deficit. Now, some people may call that a caloric deficit, but it's looking at what's been going in your body and usually decreasing that by a few hundred calories, depending on the size of the individual. And when you do that, especially if you do that over a long period of time, the biological signals that you're sending to your body are that there's not enough food in my environment right now. And the way that your body, because it's very intelligent, starts to compensate is it starts to downregulate or decrease certain hormones like your thyroid hormone, your testosterone, etc. So the challenge that a lot of guys find themselves facing when they want to be lean year round or when they're trying to lose weight is that they decrease their carbohydrates, their calories, or both. They start to see a downregulation in their hormones, and that has a negative effect on not only their testosterone, but also their libido, their energy, their ability to recover, because in short, their body thinks that they're starving.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we do is recognizing that leaning out and cutting down is sort of one phase of the process, but it's very difficult to do two things well at the same time.
Yeah.
And people will tell you, oh yeah, you can build a ton of muscle and burn fat. And like, sort of, depending on where you're at. But for someone like you, who is very close to your ideal body weight, we would need to do a delicate dance between leaning out and cutting while strategically spiking your calories and carbohydrates in the right frequency to keep your testosterone levels and your thyroid hormone levels and your libido and your mental energy and brain performance up.
Yeah.
Right. Is that kind of making sense?
It totally makes sense. It's like, because I'm like, doing it year round, I have to be like almost like hyper strategic about how I feel my body in order to make sure that it doesn't think it's starving. So it doesn't down regulate my testosterone and thyroid. And instead it keeps it at either a normal or, optimal level. And so that's like, I totally get it. So, I don't want you to give away the candy store, but like, what would be like a couple, like a tip or two that you would like give to me to like, how do I kind of like, make sure that my body doesn't think I'm starving?
Right. Yeah. So the simple answer is this, like, let's say that you wanted to increase your testosterone. You wanted to increase your libido, motivation, drive, and even your cognitive performance. You would probably want to make sure that multiple times a week, you are increasing your calories and perhaps even carbohydrates, probably to check all of the boxes, backloading those carbohydrates where you're consuming them with dinner. Works pretty well for people. That also dovetails into serotonin synthesis and melatonin synthesis, which supports good sleep, which then also increases testosterone. So we would sort of map out a number of different times, and we'd find the frequency, with probably 2 times a week, where you would dramatically increase your calories, healthy fats, carbohydrates with dinner. And then we would look at your sleep and your stress levels to remove as many of the things in your environment, like electrical pollution, blue light, et cetera, that are interfering with sleep and recovery. And then allow those things to sort of work in synergy to build you back up. Right. So to really trigger some anabolic growth phases multiple times throughout the week. And even giving you a little permission to put on a little bit of extra weight. Right. And then we balance that with the lower caloric periods, the strategic fasting, cleaning out your gut, your liver, helping those things to work better, which all support metabolic health, metabolic efficiency. And look at your blood labs, of course, to see where's your thyroid hormone at, where's your testosterone, how are some of the other things that can interfere with the efficiency of these processes, like oxidative stress coming from high iron levels in the body. It's a really common one with guys, right? Iron sort of functions like, if you were to leave a piece of metal outside exposed to the elements, right, it's going to rust. Well, high iron levels in the body do the same thing to our cells and organs and glands. They start to rust. So we look at things like high iron levels or other imbalances in the body, toxic heavy metals that we're all exposed to, chemicals like glyphosate, and how do we help the body remove those and get things back working the way that they're supposed to be, so that all of your processes are more efficient.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, I went through recently a reverse diet that turned into a lean bulk. And then I kind of got up to around 11-12% body fat. And then I was like, nope, I'm not happy here. So I went back down. So I kind of naturally did what you just coached me to do.
That's awesome.
Now, and one of the easiest ways for me to, do that is, so as I was kind of doing this, like, initial, like a reverse diet, I started like eating before I would work out. Whereas most of the year, I would say anywhere between 8 and 10 months of the year, I fast, at least until like 11 to like 1 p.m. or so. And then, and I obviously increased my calories during a reverse diet, but then I got a little sloppy and the reverse diet turned into a lean bulk. And, I was eating probably more calories than I needed to be to do a proper reverse diet. And then, in the last, week or two, I was basically like, cool, I know what to do. I'm just going to start fasting again. And there's this adjustment period that I had to go through with my workouts, because when you go from eating before your workouts to then working out without food, at first your body's like, what the fuck? Like, where'd the feel go? So the transition for me was like a little rough, but now I'm like through it. And now it's like, oh, fasted workouts feel so good. And the great thing to me about working out fasted is it further blunts my appetite. So I can because I always work out in the morning. So then I don't need to eat for even later. And from some of the more recent stuff I've been reading and learning about and listening about, it's actually beneficial for, several different, functions in your body to not eat immediately after you work out. There's almost I've been hearing that waiting 2 to 4 hours after you've worked out, to let your body do all of its natural stuff, before you start consuming calories. Would you agree with that or disagree with the kind of post workout eating? Do you wait or do you suggest that people immediately refeed after a workout?
Totally depends if we're talking about someone who has a bunch of weight to lose versus someone that is close to their ideal body weight. And of course, what their goals are. Most people are carrying around excess body fat. That's where they struggle. So for those individuals, we're talking about the yin and the yang here. The yin being muscle building, anabolic, activation of mTOR, these growth pathways. The yang being more fat burning, the energy or caloric deficit, fasted workouts, waiting longer after your workout before you refuel, etc. Right? Autophagy focused rather than growth and an anabolic approach to this, right? So for most people, though, especially if you're looking at things like protecting your brain and keeping it sharp throughout your entire life, one of the most popular studies on Alzheimer's showed that just integrating a 12-hour fast between dinner and your first meal the next day was instrumental and produced a dramatic improvement in Alzheimer's patients, along with some strategic supplements and clean nutrition, right? And we can extrapolate that because many disease states and imbalances in the body, not just neurodegenerative disease, but cancer, when you start fasting longer, your body goes from digestion to detoxification, and that autophagy process of eating cells and cancerous growths upregulates, increases. So for longevity, for keeping the body in balance, we need the right amount of fasting. And for many people, that's doing a fasted workout. And then it's waiting 30 to even 60 plus minutes after that workout before you stop these autophagy based processes and fat burning processes by consuming calories. You know what I mean? Now, if you've got a guy who's been fasting for a really long time, his libido is in the gutter, erection quality and that sort of thing is low. He's not sleeping well. Well, then he might need to do the opposite. He might actually need to start eating close to the time that he wakes up and doing things to tune his circadian biology, send signals to his body that there's plenty of food. It's a good time to bring children, offspring into the world, because there's abundance and, there's enough to go around. And that would require doing the opposite, staying a little bit more fed, increasing calories, that sort of thing. So it all depends is the short answer. And it integrates with people's goals and where they're at and what they've been experiencing.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that you delineate the fact that it does depend on where the individual person is, because it drives me crazy when people are like, everybody needs to do X, Y, and Z. It's humans are so individual. We have different genes, we have different lives where some of us are more fit, some of us are less fit, some of us have health complications, some of us, have certain, family history of diseases that we need to pay attention to that are different than what's in your family history. So I love that you made that point. What are some of the things that anybody could do to improve sleep, just some a high level things that you think are important to make sure, because you mentioned that sleep is incredibly important to your testosterone and, obviously your energy for the next day, which, if you get terrible sleep, then your hunger hormones turn on, you have more ghrelin going, and then you want to eat more. And then it's achieving your fitness goals are super challenging. So what are some biohacking sleep tips that you would share?
Yeah. So a few that are really helpful are, first, there's two books that I'm going to refer to. The first is called The Invisible Rainbow, and it's by Arthur Firstenberg. and the other is EMF'd by Dr. Joseph Mercola. Now, both of those books explain how throughout history, anytime we have experienced a dramatic change in our electrical environment, it has correlated with pandemics, epidemics, changes in health for a huge cross-section of the population. And what we've seen over these past 20 years has been the biggest increase in wireless electricity that our planet has ever seen. Wi-Fi was rolled out in the early 2000s, the iPhone 2007. Now we've got these towers that are all over cities and on water towers, and it's through the air to a degree, and through our homes to a degree that it has never been seen in human history. Now, why is that important? Well, we've known since the 60s that power lines, people that live by high voltage power lines have a dramatically increased incidence of cancer and health complications, depression, chronic fatigue, arthritic conditions, etc. Right? What a lot of people haven't made the connection, where a lot of people haven't made the connection is the fact that with Wi-Fi and our phones and our computers and these towers and the smart meters in our homes, we've just taken that same electricity and now we're spraying it through the air. But it has the same effect on our biology, which is it spikes cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol and melatonin being the sleep hormone, they're inversely related, meaning when you spike cortisol, your melatonin goes down, right? So the very hormone that we need to release, the hormone of darkness, the hormone of sleep, is now getting suppressed by the fact that we're on our phones all day, we're staring at screens all day, exposed to these blue lights, these energy efficient bulbs that our eyes, which are actually our brain, see as an artificial sun. And most of us, when it comes time to go to sleep, even though we're physically exhausted, we don't have the melatonin or the circadian health of our internal body clock in order to fall asleep and go into the deep stages of REM sleep and deep sleep that we need in order to recover, in order to restore healthy hormone levels and to feel refreshed and energized the next day. Is that kind of making sense?
Absolutely.
So what do we need to do? Well, you don't need to, go move to a cave in a mountain in the middle of nowhere, but you do need to make sure you are using technology rather than allowing technology to use you. And some of the ways that we do that with clients is we'll go in and we'll assess their entire home and then clean it all up so that their home is much more closely resembles the natural world and the natural frequencies that we've been exposed to throughout human history. But a couple of the things that anyone can do, you get in the habit of when you're going to bed, you unplug your Wi-Fi, you put your phone in airplane mode and put it outside the room. If you use your phone as an alarm clock, get yourself a battery powered alarm clock and use that instead. Just having the phone in the room, even if it's in airplane mode, there's a psychological connection there that prevents us from really going deep in sleep. And we've seen this verified by tracking sleep with the Oura Ring, Whoop Band, a number of different devices that we use to sort of quantify sleep. There you go. Nice. Oura Ring. And then, so you unplug your Wi-Fi, you put your phone in airplane mode. A number of clients will even kill the breaker to their room so that there's like no electricity flowing through their walls because they find that their deep sleep and REM sleep is dramatically improved. And then we, during the day, when you're on your computer, your laptop, whatever device you use, we recommend running an Ethernet cord from your router to the computer because that then allows you to turn off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on your computer. It's actually a faster, more stable internet connection. And now you're not working on a little cell tower, essentially, that is throughout the entire day, spiking your cortisol, suppressing your melatonin, and preventing you from getting the deep, restful night's sleep that is required for hormone production, energy, and longevity.
I love it. Thank you for explaining that. I'm curious, what are some things that, someone like me who's interested in mental clarity and creativity could do? Whether it be supplements or routines, or what are kind of like some of your, again, I don't need you to give away the candy store, but like, what are like some basic things that like, somebody should be thinking about if they want to like optimize their brain or their mental strength?
Yeah. So I'd sort of put things into two categories. There's like the category of like making to-do lists and checking things off your to-do list and very action-oriented tasks for the day, where you want to get them done. You want to get that little dopamine hit and feel like you've accomplished a lot. And then there's putting ourselves in a position to play and think creatively and look at things from different perspectives, but is not necessarily or in any way tied to productivity. You know what I mean? So what I like to do personally is early in the day, I've got, I love espresso. You saw I was having a little bit before we jumped on. One of the first things that I do as a part of my morning is I'll get myself a nice glass of espresso. I've got a little comfortable chair that's in like the corner of one of the rooms here where there's no electronics, no devices. I'll bring a yellow notepad and a pen, and I'll sit in that chair as I sip my espresso, and I'll just start thinking about different challenges in my business, different things that could be helpful to humanity and our species. Like, what are solutions to different problems that we currently perceive to have no solution? You know what I mean? And like carving out some time to do things that feel entirely unproductive. I might spend a good amount of time in that chair just staring off into space. You know what I mean? But when you carve out that time for these creative things, you find that you start getting ideas for new courses, new books, new programs, right? The other day I was like, I think I actually might have. So I was thinking about world hunger, right? And I had been exposed to, there's a number of people who I've met that were telling me about this thing called a Harvest Right freeze dryer. So it's basically this machine that you can take any food and it pulls the water out, and then you vacuum seal it. And this food can now last for 20 to 25 years, right?
Whoa.
And it preserves about 95% of its nutrients. Complete game changer.
Wow.
Right? And I don't have any connection with Harvest Right, the company, but if a bunch of you guys go buy Harvest Rights, tell them to send me a free giant machine because I want it. I haven't purchased it yet, but I've been seeing it, different people, and they're like, yeah. So people were showing me, I was at a friend's house in North Carolina. They were showing me vacuum sealed mashed potatoes. They're like, these will last for 25 years. All you got to do is add water and they're good to go. Completely does away with canning, any of these other food preservation methods. They're just obsolete. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, if we were to imagine if there was like commercial size freeze dryers, or we put these in some of the locations where there's the greatest food spoilage in the world, so maybe restaurants, maybe food production facilities, we can think about where there's the highest concentration of people, cities like New York, Los Angeles, so on and so forth. I'm like, if we built commercial size freeze dryers and took that waste and spoilage and instead freeze dried it, not only would it retain a lot of the nutrients, it would last for 20 to 25 years. And we could start getting that to people all over the world who are in need of food.
Yeah.
It could completely change the game. And obviously this needs to be ironed out a little bit, but this was like Sunday that popped in my head, only because I was sitting in the chair drinking espresso and had time carved out where I wasn't just busy with tasks, which I think sort of interfere and encumber that creative process.
I am right there with you. So I do a similar thing in the morning where I give myself, 20 to even 60 minutes plus to kind of just ideate. I do several different things. I write out like some, wins from the day before to kind of like generate positive momentum. Then I'll basically do what is called scripting, where I kind of like script out parts of my life as if I were writing a movie, to kind of like start to activate my own internal vision, like visionary, manifesting powers. And, I'll do some affirmations, but I have a section that's just like ideas, and I'll just like anything that pops into my head during that time, I'll just write it down. Because you wrote all that down, I assume, as you were doing that, right? You were like, oh, here's some ideas I have, right?
Yeah, I just have that yellow legal pad.
Yeah.
And I'll jot the stuff down.
And I feel like people have so many great ideas, especially in the morning, but they never write them down. So like, if you don't capture the idea and put it down onto paper, or at least into your like smartphone or something, it just evaporates. It goes to the next person who's willing to like capture it.
Totally.
So
Yeah. And I do that. So I'll write it down because I'm just much more, I like interfacing with in the physical world, actually writing by hand with a pen. But then I'll take it and I'll translate it into Evernote, which is like a note taking app and allows you to organize things in different notebooks. Or sometimes I'll even just snap a picture of the notes that I took with my phone and then throw that picture into Evernote, and categorize it so that it's there and it's something that I can draw on later or run with.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I do both paper and digital notes, and I'll just like take a picture of my paper notes and store it in my phone. So if I need to refer to it later, I can.
Totally. And I think most people are incredibly creative and have thousands and thousands of brilliant ideas inside of them. But if carving out time for idea generation is not a part of their routine, then they're cutting themselves off from that. And certainly, and I've done this before in the past too, if we're just building our day based on what other people tell us we should be doing, we sort of become a little robotic and cut off from like our divine spark, where a lot of those things can come through. So I'd encourage anyone listening to like anything that you're doing as a part of your routine, make sure that it's giving you a return, right? Yeah. Where you feel better and more energized and more connected as a result of doing that. And if there's something that you hate and you're just doing it because someone else told you should, maybe that's not something that should be a long-term part of your routine. And if you want to be more creative and you want to generate more ideas or whatever you want to do, you got to have time carved out for that. And recognize that, it might only be 10% of the time that good stuff comes through and the other 90% feels unproductive. But if you're like, hey, every day I'm going to try to come up with a good idea, or every week I'm going to try to come up with a good idea, and I'm going to have time carved out for that. Imagine having 50 awesome ideas that you've come up with in a year.
Yeah.
How many people listening came up with like 50 dope ideas last year and recorded them and had a process? You know what I mean? We've all got it, but we got to make time for it if we want it.
It's funny. I was just thinking about this the other day. I even did like a short little Instagram story on it. Like basically you have to make time every day or at least a few times a week for the muse to visit you. Because like the muse is very fickle. Like she might visit you, but she might not. But if you don't even show up for her to visit, she's definitely not going to visit you. But if you make time and space for her to show up in your life, she will for sure show up. Because like I am totally agree with you. Everyone like has brilliant ideas and really creative ideas that can, move the human race forward. Or just move their life forward, right? But if they don't create the space in their own life for that and, make sure that they're, not just being a robot working some 9 to 5. Even if you have a 9 to 5, it's just, okay, maybe you get up a little bit earlier and carve that time out. Or you take time, if you're an evening person, because I'm also a huge believer in like understanding your own circadian rhythm. Like some people are naturally morning people. I'm a morning person. My wife is a night person. She does so much stuff at night while I'm sleeping, and that's her creative time. And I'd be like, I'm dead asleep, but I'm awake, between like 3 and 4 a.m. And I'm just like, oh, it's dragon hour now. Like, I do all my creativity there. So, know your circadian rhythm and then carve out time for your brilliance to like manifest in the physical world. So
yeah,
absolutely
I love that. And it's part of that, and what ties in is just not resisting our true nature. Being honest with, am I a morning person? Am I a night person? I'm not a morning person. I can get up early and I can do that for long periods of time, but I run much better in the afternoon and the evening. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think so many times we've been conditioned and to resist parts of ourselves that are our nature.
Yeah.
And the more that we can embrace that, like you and I were talking earlier, you're like, should I call you the CEO of Biohacking Secrets? I'm like, I'm a shit CEO, and I pretended for years that I was a good one.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, it wasn't an option for me to be like, no, I hate operations and marketing. I enjoy being the artist and the visionary and the creative. Yeah. Right. But by being more truthful about what I am and having less resistance around it, it's actually quite liberating. And then what happens is we start filling our day with more things that energize us, and where our day actually feels more like play, and we start loving our life more. And a lot of great stuff comes through when we start walking that path.
Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. This show is brought to you by Feel Free from Botanic Tonics. This product is unlike anything I've ever had before. No joke. It's made with kava root and other ancient plants, and just half a shot gives me this incredible sense of focused flow and productivity. And I love to take just half a shot right before I work out. I take it with my pre-workout, and it takes my workouts to the next level. It is seriously unlike anything I've ever had. It's also an incredible productivity tool for any big work projects that you have, or long periods of time where you just need to be super focused in flow state and get a lot of shit done. So if you want to give this a shot, you can go to botanictonics.com and use code DRAGON at checkout to get 40% off your first order. No joke, 40% off with code DRAGON. That's Feel Free from botanictonics.com, code DRAGON. Feel free, feel good. Couldn't agree more. Like these books that I'm a big fan of like Robin Sharma, but the 5 a.m. Club, like the book that he wrote, like I'm like, what about all the people who don't naturally get up early? Like this is a terrible book for them. And I'm just like, it's the same thing I was saying earlier. It's like that, like one thing is for everybody is like, it's crazy. And I always think back to like tribal times, right? There were like the morning people who woke up and like did all the morning stuff. And then there were like the people who had more energy in the evening. They would like look after the tribe and make sure like they would stay up later, and like people worked in shifts, right? And they optimized for kind of like what their natural circadian or chronotype or internal clocks were doing. And it's now like we unfortunately in large part due to the industrial age, like everyone's like, oh, okay, I got to be a morning person. But like now that's changing again, because now it's all like work from home, and there's just so much opportunity for people to create businesses like around just about anything, anywhere in the world, working at any hour. So it's really beautiful to see more people getting that what you would probably say expansion of life. Which I want to dive into those 3 topics that you and I talked off air before we hit record. So you hit one of them, health freedom, and the other one was expansion of life. And then the third one you're going to have to help me with: decentralized community. Sufficiency. Okay, let's cover those 3.
Sure. Yeah. So, well, the health freedom, a lot of that is biohacking and what we discussed. You know what I mean? Having autonomy over your health, and knowing exactly what to do to keep yourself dialed in physically, mentally, spiritually, and know that you are set up to live a long lifespan and health span, right? The expansion of life dovetails from that, and that ties into not only like your life force, your joie de vivre, your passion, your excitement for what you're doing, but also the life density that surrounds you. The amount of plants and animals and insects and microorganisms, your family, your community. Like we are built to have in-person interactions and to be charged up. There's a battery or like a Tesla coil where energy is exchanged, and in person that it does not occur when we do things just strictly through screens, right? So supporting the expansion of life is first looking at the life density that surrounds us. And then it is also looking at our family relationships, our community relationships, the amount of face-to-face interactions we have with people who are aligned, share similar values, people of high integrity, high morality. You know what I mean? And for many people, that also they are encouraged to start a family of their own and bring life into this world and raise good human beings that that will be our future leaders, right? And you can sort of put things into two categories. If you really want a simple framework, you can look at behaviors as, life affirming, which tie into the expansion of life, or anti-life, right? And this can get pretty granular, but like there are many guys, probably a lot of guys listening to this, that have issues with pornography and masturbation, right? So taking that example, if you look at a behavior where not only are we like rewiring our brain circuitry, raising our arousal threshold, throwing off our dopamine centers so that it gets more and more difficult for us to even become sexually excited, especially if we have a partner and we're in a committed marriage or relationship, right? Not only from that perspective, but just taking like literally the energy and the primordial soup that creates life, our sperm, and shooting that into a napkin, right? Or shooting it down the drain. Does that support the expansion of life? Is that a life affirming behavior, or is that more anti-life?
Yeah. It's definitely anti-life,
It's anti-life, right? And so when you start putting things through that lens, if you were to look at your nutrition, right? Let's say every day you woke up and you made yourself a giant 24 ounces of green juice with organic vegetables, and you ran them through your juicer. And as soon as it came out, you could see all of the vitality and micronutrients in there. And you drank that juice every morning, and you gave thanks for that juice and thought about an intention for what you wanted that juice to do to your body, how it was going to strengthen and rebuild and energize you, right? Versus every morning you wake up and you go to Starbucks and you get a sort of McMuffin sausage egg thing that they then, sandwich with glyphosate bread, throw in the microwave, and pass through a window to you in your car that you eat on the way to work, right? So you have two very different scenarios. One, at least one animal lost its life. You're consuming pesticides. You're stripping the food of its nutrients by heating it up in a microwave. You're eating it in a rush where you're not present, you're not conscious, you haven't set an intention for what you want that food to do to your body, versus the scenario that I described with the green juice, right? Which one of those is more along the continuum of life affirming, the expansion of life, and which one is more toward the other end?
Yeah. That's such a great framework to think through. And in preparation for this, I was listening to some of your other interviews on some other podcasts, and you brought up kind of the whole like sexual creative energy that Napoleon Hill talks a lot about. And I just want to like briefly recap, because that's very much like you're kind of like talking through that vein a little bit, just about like how are we managing our own creative force that is within us, but like as we live life, we either do things that are adding to it, or we do things that are like literally taking away our life force. Help me suss that out a little bit for the audience, because I think it's so critical, because I think things like pornography and just I don't know, things that literally suck the life out of us, they're everywhere.
Totally. Yeah. And most people aren't aware of them, so they continue to have the power to do that.
Correct.
Right? And as soon as you shine a light of awareness on it, well, then if you want to keep doing it, that's fine. That's why we have free will. But it loses a lot of its power once you're aware of it, and then at least it becomes a conscious choice.
Yeah.
So I've had on the urban monk Pedram Shojai on my podcast, the Biohacking Secrets Show, and we talked about this in a lot of Taoist cultures. They recommend semen retention, right? And because that is, as I mentioned earlier, like the life force, like literally the seed that creates life, right? And when we are spraying that down the drain into tissues constantly, we're depleting our life force, and with it, some of the creative energy that is required for us to build businesses and to really just feel alive and connected and have that electricity that creates worlds running through our body. If we were to take it to the extreme example, just to bring this back, because I think that pornography and chronic masturbation can be so detrimental to not only individuals, but society as a whole. If we come back to that example, what a lot of men are doing, like, let's imagine you and I are we work for National Geographic, right? And we're in Africa, and we've been assigned the task of studying primates. And we find a good spot where there's lots of bonobo monkeys, and some of them we find a nice little male and a nice little female monkey that are up in a tree, and we start watching them. And regularly, this male monkey and this female monkey, because they have a strong affinity for one another, they'll start having sex, right? Well, after a couple weeks, we notice that there's another monkey in a nearby tree that actually is by himself, and he watches this other male and female have sex. And while he watches, he masturbates his little monkey pecker off, right? Now, if we were to categorize one of these male monkeys as more alpha and one as more beta, the classification is quite clear, right?
Yeah.
The alpha monkey is the one having actual sex. The beta monkey is sitting there watching these other two have sex while he masturbates. Now, that's the same exact thing that a lot of men are doing when they watch pornography and masturbate to other people having sex, right? Then beyond that, how do you think that impacts the subconscious mind and where we place ourselves in the social hierarchy? How do you think that to a secondary degree affects our testosterone?
Yeah.
Now, the studies in this area, I don't know if they'll ever be done, right? I don't know who's financially incentivized to do them, but it's sort of common sense. You're not going to be dramatically increasing your testosterone and increasing your life force by staring at a bunch of flashing lights and sounds coming out of a screen and masturbating and spilling your life force down the drain.
Yeah.
It's just common sense.
Yeah.
Right. And then to follow up that behavior and say, I don't know why I'm not motivated. I don't know why my erection quality has decreased. I don't know why I'm not pursuing sex with my partner, or, I feel down and depressed and unmotivated. Well, it becomes pretty clear when you look at it through our framework and start, being a little bit more objective about the behaviors that all of us have engaged in from time to time that may not be serving us.
Yeah. So follow-up question to this. Like, let's say I'm watching like a TV show that is like, about some like super successful business person who's like doing something I want to do. Would that be like inspirational, or would that be like being the beta monkey and not just going out and doing it myself? Like, I'm just curious, because I'm just thinking about like, there's pornography, but then there's so much media that we consume. Especially with like Netflix and all that stuff. So I was just like thinking through that as you were explaining the monkey and the porn. I was like, what about like when we're watching other people on TV being like successful and stuff? Like,
yeah, it totally depends on the impact that it has on you and how that emotional impact affects your behavior. Right. So let's say you're watching a documentary on like Richard Branson, who started like the Virgin brands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as you're watching it, you're getting inspired, you're feeling good, you're getting all these different ideas that could impact your business. And you hear that every morning Richard Branson goes for a swim in the ocean around Necker Island, and that's part of his morning physical activity. And you're like, you know what? I should do more. Once a week, I'm going to start swimming in a natural body of water to connect to the Earth's electromagnetic frequency. I'm going to make that part of my morning routine, and then I'm going to follow that up with some creative exercises and new ideas for businesses and things that we could do that could be helpful to my fellow brothers and sisters on this planet. Positive. Right? That's an example of how it could be a positive impact on your life. Now, conversely, let's say you're watching that and you have jealousy in your heart. You're like, oh, must be nice. This guy came from money, or I don't know Richard Branson's story. You know what I mean? But you're like, oh, of course, he was able to do that because blah, 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 blah. But that wouldn't work for me, and that's the energy that you're bringing to it. And most importantly, like many people don't do, they never combine, or not never, but a lot of people don't actually take action. They watch like the movie The Secret, and they're like, all I got to do is sit in a chair and think about all the things I want to attract in my life. It's like, no, like use that inspiration and combine it with massive action and the right action and a mindset that you're willing to do whatever it takes and keep trying until you hit your goal. You know what I mean? But like the action needs to be there in order for any of this stuff to manifest. So if you're watching stuff and just consuming it and it doesn't produce any change in what you're doing with your life or your routine, well, then it's a waste.
Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. Today's show is brought to you by Fit Rich Vegan. If you're ready to get in the best shape of your life, double your income, and 10x your savings and investments, then this is the coaching program for you. But wait a minute, Dragon. Isn't this your coaching program? Heck yeah, it is. I spent the last 8 years mastering my fitness and my finances, and I've built an incredible coaching program with an incredible team to help you get the body of your dreams and finally achieve that level of financial success that you've been seeking. So if you want to find out if you're a good fit for the program, go to fitrichvegan.com and book your free consultation today. Or you can just DM me on Instagram with the words FitRichVegan, and we can chat about if it's going to be a good fit for you. I'm committed to empowering people to actually achieve their fitness and financial goals. I spent the last 20 years trying to figure this out on my own. And what I realized is the key to doing it is not doing it alone. You have to have coaches, you have to have mentors, and you have to be a part of masterminds. And that's exactly what Fit Rich Vegan has. It has coaches, mentors, and it is a mastermind. So again, if you're ready to book your free consultation today, go to fitrichvegan.com or drop me a DM on Instagram. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the critical piece most people miss is like, affirmations, visualization. It only works if you then take action, right? Mm-hmm. Like you literally, it's like our physical manifestation, like we are physical beings in a physical world. In order to bring like things from the ether into this physical world, we have to take physical action. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people, they're just not taking enough action. And I think the other thing people face it with is they think they have to do everything in like one day. It's like, no, just take the next right action, and then the next right action, and then the next right action, and then it'll manifest in your life. But if you don't take any action, big or small, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, and strategic action is rarely sexy.
Yeah,
it's often doing the thing that's like a little bit boring, a little bit monotonous, but showing up consistently and putting in the work day in and day out. Yeah, and a lot of people just they just quit too soon.
Yeah.
Right. They haven't really been consistent in anything long enough for it to manifest and come to fruition. And when we realize, okay, this isn't going to be, I'm not going to have all of the like dopamine and excitement that I had when I first, birthed the idea. And there's going to be periods where I'm like, this sucks. This isn't going to work. But if you believe it in enough and you keep doing it and you keep showing up and you do the things that other people aren't willing to do, that's where the magic really happens.
Yeah. My business partner said this thing to me in a podcast interview on my show that I had when I had him on. And he said, I realized that I could never lose if I don't quit. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's so fucking true. And he's like, look, it might take me 30 years, but if I don't quit, it's going to happen. And I was like, that's so true. And with what you just said, most people quit too soon. They might be just a few more actions away, or they could be a ton of actions away, but like they just stop. And so of course they don't achieve what they set out to do. Let's talk about the decentralized community and what you're doing with this, all this raw land that you bought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I had reached a point where if you go back to 2016, I'm living in a high-rise condo in downtown Chicago. I'm sleeping in an altitude tent that like can simulate, sleeping at like 11,000 feet. And I've got biohacks everywhere. I got a sauna in my living room. And I just realized that like all of these biohacks, and I talk about this in my book, all of these biohacks are essentially mimicking and providing us with things that we would have gotten from nature and a more natural way of living that our ancestors, lived hundreds and thousands of years ago. Right. And I had sort of reached a glass ceiling where, in order to take things to the next level in my physical, mental, and spiritual health, I actually had to go connect to nature. I realized that I needed that. You could do well eating organic food from Whole Foods, but you can do a lot better if you're eating organic food that you just picked from your garden, and that wasn't flown all over the world and irradiated multiple times and got all these like weird casings and waxes to preserve it. You know what I mean? Food that truly has the life force and energy and the photonic energy from the sun and the earth, and you're putting that in your body in a timely manner. That's a much higher level. Drinking spring water from our property that's structured and vitalized and carries the magnetic and electric frequencies of the earth's Schumann resonance with it, rather than water that has, come out of someone else's toilet, gone to the reclamation plant, been loaded up with fluoride and chlorine and a bunch of other garbage that then kills my gut microbiome when I drink it or when it's absorbed through my skin in the shower. They look like the same thing, but when you start paying attention to the invisible and the energies underlying these practices, you realize that a closer relationship with Mother Nature and our food and our water and other people who share similar values, that's the next level.
Yeah.
So that's what we started building. And, I look at these next few years as an opportunity where there's a lot of people going down one path where you can call it transhumanism. You look at it almost as like man's merging with machine. We're seeing it already with cell phones and that sort of thing. And I think there's a lot of other people that are going to go into what I would consider like the great simplification. Realizing that they want a simpler life, that they want to live a life that's more connected with other people, face-to-face interactions, their water, their food, Mother Nature. They want to learn from Mother Nature rather than screens and through, other people telling them what is true. They want to learn truth from the natural world, from God and our Creator. And I think that second bifurcation of society that's kind of getting back to a more natural way of living, those people will probably, and what I would like to do is do more bartering, less relying on our fiat currency monetary system, which will probably at some point in the future be a central banking digital currency, cryptocurrency system. I think a lot of that path is anti-freedom. And for us to have more freedom and more autonomy, we need to have a food source, have a water source, have other people in our life that are high integrity, high morality, share similar values, and have our back. So that's kind of what I'm referring to by community sufficiency. And there's a huge movement of people that are getting nature retreats and starting to take some steps in that direction. And that's kind of what I'm referring to.
Yeah. And I totally understand what you're talking about, because I've gone on 2 different vision quests where I've basically, not where I'm doing like crazy drugs or anything, but where I'm like out in nature fasting. I was in nature for an entire week, basically no power, fasting for four full days, so 96 hours. And when I came out of that both times, like I had so much energy for like a few months. Like I was like this, like I was the most charged up I'd ever felt in my life. And it's just like, oh my God. And so when you connect with like nature that deeply, like it's incredible how much energy and power is available to us. And just having this conversation, I'm like, man, I need to do that again. We just recently moved to Santa Cruz County to get closer to the ocean. And earlier when you're talking about, connecting with the natural body of water, I was like, all right. And I've been telling myself, we've been here for a little over 3 weeks, that I'm going to start like jump in the ocean at least once or twice a week. And I'm like, I still haven't fucking done that yet. Like, come on. This is the universe is speaking to me through Anthony right now. I need to go like jump in that ocean this week. So I absolutely love what you're doing. Are there any other, words of wisdom or last kind of ideas that you want to share with the audience before we wrap this up? Because I know you have a meeting coming up pretty soon, and I want to be respectful of your time.
Sure. I want to encourage everyone listening to kind of turn up the dial of awareness on their own intuition, and the feelings and emotions that they experience throughout the day, both the ones that are positively charged and the ones that are negatively charged. And with that increased awareness, when those periods at either polarity occur, ask yourself why. Where is this coming from? Right? And in doing that, we bring more consciousness to the things that are truly driving our life experience and our quality of life and the life force that is within us. And when we have that level of consciousness and awareness, we can then make decisions that facilitate more positive charges, more positive emotions and feelings throughout the day, a greater love for our life and this life experience. And we can start to create separation from the things that are contributing to those negative charges, those negative feelings, those negative emotions, right? Because I truly believe that freedom in body, mind, and spirit is more positive, uplifting emotions and feelings and experiences, and being able to notice when the negative ones creep in, pause, create separation, and take action that will make them fewer and further between. And we do this through the lens of health and health freedom, helping people get their body dialed in, burning fat, building more muscle, getting their brain working the way that it's supposed to, knowing that they're protected from cancer, heart disease, neurodegenerative disease. And if people would like help with those things, they can go to biohackercoaching.com and grab a time to talk with myself or someone from our team. And whether or not coaching makes sense or doesn't, I want everyone to start realizing that you can get to a certain level by doing the things that other people tell you that you should do. But ultimately, that voice inside of you that knows what's possible is only going to be fully realized when we turn up our own intuition and bring awareness to, what we're experiencing throughout the day, and be truly honest with ourselves about the behaviors that are life affirming and support the expansion of life versus the behaviors that we're engaging in that are in many ways anti-life and draining and fostering and creating negative emotions and feelings within us.
Awesome. Well, brother, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a really enjoyable, deep conversation that's got me thinking a lot and reflecting on, how I'm acting in the world in many ways. So I really appreciate your time, your energy, your wisdom, your insight, your actionable insight. And the best place for people, if they want to connect with you online, is...
biohackercoaching.com. Or if, they want to talk about our coaching program, they can send me a text to 847-989-3743. It's my actual phone number. And I'd love to have a conversation and connect.
Awesome. Brother, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you, my man.
Thanks for tuning in. And remember, literally everything can be used as an opportunity to learn, to heal, to grow, and to transform. So whatever is going on in your life, choose to consciously and proactively harness that energy and use it to alchemize your life to the next level. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend or on your favorite social media and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. As always, you can find me at Justin David Carl on Instagram and all the socials, as well as at alchemizelife.com on the web. Until the next time, sending you lots of energy and plenty of dragon magic.